Got my eyes straight ahead, got my head in the game. With the red light on, I'm just waiting for the change. Keep my head down low.
Yeah, so they're at it again. Queensland Police Service, my old workplace, are at it again. Coming up, putting their hand up, doing a bit of an article saying, "Well, look at these problems that we have within the service," and but we've done a review, 100-day review. We've got a few answers. We're going to make a few changes. The problem is now I was in general duties over 10 years ago. When I was in general duties, they were talking about these same issues back then. About how police aren't doing the core work. We're doing jobs for other government departments. So I would have no doubt that they were probably talking about those same issues 10 years before that. You've had the same issues, but the senior executive consistently ignore these issues. And if only there was someone in government that you knew that you could talk to and say, hey, maybe we need to change a few things. But everything is so political. All the senior executive are just, and the union, they're way too involved in promoting their own political agenda. They're way too involved in looking at their own career progression and where they want to go, you know, cleaning up their resumes and trying to make themselves look better. No one's really trying to push things ahead, push things forward, and try to do things that are better for the community and better for the Queensland Police Service. In this article that we're going to go through, he talks about how things really changed dramatically during COVID period, and they also discuss the attrition rate for police, how it's at such a high percent. I think it's at 3.2% at the moment, which means they are losing way too many experienced officers. The problem is, several years ago, you decided to attack your own people. You decided, hey, we've got this thing called COVID. Yep, we've got kind of rules that say you cannot force people to undergo medical treatments. But even though we say that we believe in all these things, when things get hard, we'll say, no, 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 screw the people, and we're just going to demand that you go and partake of this mandate, partake of a medical procedure. And if you don't do that, we will vilify all the people that don't agree. We will attack our own people. We'll condemn our own people. We'll attack you. We'll threaten you. We're going to threaten all these people with criminal charges because you didn't go along with that other commissioner's demands. And then we turn around and scratch our heads and say, gee, I wonder why we're losing so many officers every month. Not to mention the fact that for like I said, they were talking about this when I was in general duties when I very first started. So they've probably been talking about for the last 40 years why you still have a retirement age of 60. Why? You got officers who've been in there for decades, and you're like, oh, you've hit 60, you're still healthy, you're still fit, you still actually know a thing or two. We don't need your experience. Sorry, you got to go. So the officer doesn't get any choice. And it's not like you can say, well, you could help with training, you could still help do other things. All these other young officers come through. We need police with experience to help train these people. You know, spread your experience, teach. No, no, you're 60, out the door. And you get no choice in the matter. Unless you're an officer, unless you're, you know, unless you're an inspector or something like those. One of the roles that they don't need that much of. But so then you've got they attacked all their officers. They've got this atrocious attrition rate. I mean, just in this last month, they have lost around 50 officers. Now, some of them were retirements, but they've lost around 50. Now, when I went through my intake, which is when I was there was it was 7 months. I think it's been lowered now, but so 7 months of training just to go through and get into your first year of policing. 7 months, and there was only 20. I got a feeling it might have been 23, 24 of us in the intake. 24 officers. It took 7 months to get through and pass, and then go into your first year. So you're still technically training anyway. Only 20 of them. But yet, that's in one intake, and it took 7 months. They just lost around 50 in the last month. In the last month. So they've got this ridiculous attrition rate, which they can't maintain. And then they've done this 100-day review saying, well, we need to get back to our core roles. We're focusing too much on these other roles. And, we've got to try and keep all these people. Well, if you hadn't attacked good officers, if you hadn't vilified all these officers and go out, and then the issue is the general public saw the way you treated your own people. You treated your own people like rubbish. And then they saw the way you treat the public. They see the fact that you've got more shootings than ever before. And yet, for some reason, it's just it's never the police officer's fault, even though sometimes it looks, and I'm not going to say you have to blame the police officer and they should be charged at all, but there's never anything negative said. Then you've got that the fellow from the union who turns around and says, well, what we need new recruits who are just interested in lifestyle and money. And who could have thought that wouldn't turn out that well? If all you got is people who are just interested in lifestyle and money, maybe that's not the best kind of recruitment. Maybe that's not the best person to recruit. Because funny enough, if all you want is someone who's interested in lifestyle and money, well, then that's all they're going to care about is lifestyle and money, and not actually be focused on the job and doing a good job. So you end up with lower standards in policing. As I was told, as I what can I say? As I was told, it seems like they're just basically accepting anyone in recruitment now because they can't get anyone. So this is a problem they brought upon themselves. So they need to get back to their core roles, what the police are saying, but they're suffering because they attack their own people, they vilify their own people. They also bring in recruits who shouldn't really be police in the first place, so they've got low standards, and now we're getting just bad performance in policing. It's not a good mix. Not a good mix at all. Now that I've ranted on a little bit, let's go and see what the acting commissioner says. This dude's the acting commissioner. This is him, Chelepy, I think his name is. Yeah, Shane Chelepy. Because the commissioner is out on, well, he's ill. He's suffering from cancer. So all the best, Golshewski. Cancer is not a good thing, obviously. Queensland Police reports finds officers waylaid by non-core duties. Like I said, that was happening well over a decade ago when I was doing general duties. They were probably talking about it a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades before that. Less than a third of Queensland Police Service's workforce provides a visible response in the community, with the landmark review recommending staff return to more key frontline duties. Overworked police are still doing the jobs of other government departments, such as prisoner transports or guarding prisoners at hospital for hours, with a 100-day review finding the service should go back to its core role of protecting the community. I'm sorry, but if you're working in the police and you're not in the southeast corner, realistically, prisoner transport and guarding prisoners at hospitals is a part of your core role, because you don't have correctional officers on hand. Your nearest correctional facility is maybe 100, 200, 300 kilometers away. So you don't have correctional officers there to do those roles. So that is your part of your core role if you're out in a small town. So when they talk about this stuff, the core role, and they shouldn't be doing these prisoner transports and that, yeah, maybe in Brisbane. Maybe just don't focus on Brisbane all the time, Chelepy. So he's told the Courier Mail the review had found there was a need to realign the service back to the front line to keep up with policing demands, which included about 570 domestic and family violence jobs every day. What came through loud and clear was the feeling of the workforce, of the amount of functions that the organisation does. There was a quote by one of our police that was interviewed that I think summed it up. It says, "Police are real estate agents, we're mediators, we're teachers, we're lawyers, we're removalists, we're childcare workers, we're corrective services, security guards, and often magicians." Whatever. Bit of drama there. Flipping hang Johnny Drama or what, this lad. Listen, when it comes to being like security guards and magicians, that's an issue. This is something that was created. You look at what police are used now as security guards by councils. Councils want to go and move all these homeless people on, or want to go and issue fines to people who are sleeping in the cars and all this thing. And they constantly call in the police to act as security guards. But they've allowed this to happen, and they want the councils out there issuing these fines to people who can't afford fines, and the councils have become dictators, little despots in their own little kingdoms. And police act as security guards, but they've also brought this on themselves, and the government is to blame for this as well. So, yeah, anyway, he's saying these are all the problems. He's not really offering much of a solution, but Chelepy said there were 65 recommendations in the review which had been accepted, and discussions would be taking place with government departments to define what roles police played. Under changes, he said frontline police would be given more autonomy in decision making, and the regions would have greater power to make decisions rather than being controlled by Brisbane. Ooh, that's dangerous. That is dangerous. If you've got frontline police giving autonomy in decision making, as long as it's not all these junior officers that I've seen running around making decisions off their own back, that is not what you want. A bloated executive leadership team will be scaled back. Oh, really? I think I suggested that in one of my videos. They've had a bloated executive leadership team for a very, very long time. They could have been scaled back years ago. But now, finally, someone's come up with the bright idea, we need to scale that back. Really? Wow, if only someone else had thought of that bright idea. He said no staff would be losing jobs. Mental health co-responder teams will also be introduced to reduce some of the burden on frontline police. Oh, golly gee. There's nothing new about that. They've talked about that for over a decade. Chelepy said the end goal was more support for frontline police, which will include more mental health, welfare, and support services for police. Of the entire 19,000 QPS workforce, which includes civilian staff, the review found just 32.6% provided a visible policing response. Of the total police staff, about 53.76% provided a visible policing response. Chelepy said he wanted to increase the visible policing numbers by realigning officers to the front line where possible. The review noted the service attrition rate was also 3.2%, which was way too high. Like I said, the last month, they've had around 50 officers leaving. They cannot maintain that kind of attrition rate. When you have one intake, like I said, my intake was around the 20 mark. I think it was, I can't remember exactly anyway. It was 20 something, in the low 20s. 7 months of training just to get into your first year, and yet in 1 month they lose close to 50 officers in 1 month. Immediately I'd be thinking, well, do we really have to stick with the whole 60 years of age, you're out the door, retirement age? Let's just scrap all that experience and knowledge, turf it out the door. We don't need it, and then we're going to cry about it when we've got all these young fellas coming through that don't know what they're doing. There's some things that they could do to fix some of these issues very quickly, but they refuse. They bury their head in or they just don't want to change some of these things. He said this year we will be expected to attend just over 180,000 domestic and family violence jobs. We will be on track to attend just over 60,000 mental health call-outs. In addition to that, as we saw through in the Watch House review, we're doing prisoner guards, we're doing prisoner transports, we're doing correctional facilities in our watch houses. Well, that's really an issue that's come about also due to government neglect as well. And like I said too, they're talking about things which, if you're out in rural areas, you're not going to be able to change some of these things because you don't have correctional facilities close by to be able to help you with these things. He says, so we are doing far too much outside of our core business, and that came through loud and clear. This hasn't happened overnight. Well, no joke, hasn't happened overnight. He's great for the cliches. Hasn't happened overnight, but it will happen. Like I said, that has been a decade in the making, and it's accelerated considerably since COVID. Wow, a little acknowledgement about what happened during COVID. Like I said, what also happened during COVID is the service turned its back on its own police, on its own force, on its own members, turned its back on them. It vilified all the people, anyone who put their hand up and said, no, I don't agree with the mandates, I don't want to go along with it. It made an enemy of them. It attacked its own members. The public saw the way the police service treated its own members. What the other thing that happened during COVID, and not just that you had police leaving or police being kicked out because they didn't go along with the mandates, you made the police service, the enemy of the public. You sent the police out to go and attack people who were sitting there trying to have a coffee, but they weren't wearing a mask. Or you went along with these ridiculous rules that, hey, if you're in a hotel, when you're standing and walking around the hotel, you got to wear a mask. But when you're sitting down, sipping a drink, then you can take your mask off. Like, just, you have police going around enforcing these ludicrous laws, rules, regulations. You turn the public against the police. That was the perception. You made the police the enemy. And then you've gone and forced a heap of police out who were experienced just because they didn't go along with what you wanted to do. You made an enemy out of them. And then you said, well, we've got big problems here. We're no longer able to recruit the numbers that we've been able to recruit before. So we're going to lower our standards. But the problem is now you're really scraping the bottom with the standard of police recruit that you're bringing in. So if you keep lowering your standards and scraping the bottom as you are, you're going to get a poor work ethic. And you get a poor work ethic also because you went along with the police union and their brilliant idea of saying, well, no, we need recruits who are interested in lifestyle and money. Lifestyle and money. If all you're interested in is lifestyle and money, you shouldn't be a police officer because you're not interested in serving the community. You're just interested in yourself. But the people who were actually interested in serving the community, you went and made an enemy out of them and kicked them out. So you don't have the support of the community anymore. This is greater than just your force having to do the jobs of other government departments, because that's been going on for a long time. You attacked your own people, made an enemy out of them. You attacked the community. People no longer trust the police like they used to. And so now you're having problems. Now you've got this attrition rate, which you cannot maintain, and you continue to bury your head in the sand. And the one good thing you're doing is, we need to scale back the senior executive. You didn't need a 100-day review to know that. I flipping told you that like 3 months ago. Anyway, Queensland Police Service doing their greatest to continue to screw up the Queensland Police Service. This is all my opinion. Let me know what you think. I'm j-fallon. I used to be a Queensland Police Service officer. I used to be proud of that, but hey, it's all just my opinion.
And say it isn't real, and please don't go away. Just give me one more day. What if I could turn back time? I'd make you smile again. And if I could unbreak your heart, and we could start again. What if I could turn back time? I'd make you smile again. And if I could unbreak your heart, and we could start again. We could start again. We could start again.